Go.
This meeting is being recorded.
So just to be aware, we are recording this in case people are interested in seeing it and miss it. So it is May 15th, 2024. My name is Paul Wolf. I serve as president of the New York Coalition for Open Government. And for the past few Mays, maybe this is only our second or third, we tend to do an annual meeting. So that is what tonight's purpose is, to just kind of, we're busy doing so many things. It's interesting to take a moment to reflect on 2023. And whenever I, go back and look through our previous minutes and agenda, and I'm always shocked at the end by how many things we did and how many things I forgot we did, quite honestly, because we're just always on the go and doing things. So the plan tonight is I want to go through just a few PowerPoint slides to talk about, what we did last year. And then we want to recognize a few folks who have been instrumental and helpful, and have them say a few words as well. And then we'll wrap it up. So it should be just 45 minutes to an hour to complete this whole thing. Don't like to drag things out. But before I get into 2023, let me just tell you a little bit of history about this organization and how it came about. Some people may have heard some of this story in the past, but so I started this organization back in 2017. And it started first as the Buffalo Niagara Coalition for Open Government. I didn't really have the nerve. I said, I learned about the National Freedom of Information Coalition, and I said, wow, there's groups like this all across the country. I was filing my own FOIL requests and going to my town board meeting and getting frustrated. And I said, I'm sure there are other people like me. And I would read articles in the paper about other things happening in other parts of the state. And as a kid, I grew up in the housing projects in Buffalo, and I was always active in my community. So I went to tenant council meetings as a teenager. And, not something that most teenagers do, but I was always interested. And I got involved. And we did things like we picketed City Hall because we were very frustrated with how public housing was being managed in the city of Buffalo. We did petitions. I was like 40 years ago was when I first met Jim Haney, who a Buffalo news reporter who now runs Investigative Post. The first news reporter interview I ever did was with Jim Haney. So it's kind of funny that we're still friends and still doing these things. And I formed a citywide public housing tenant organization called the Buffalo League of Public Housing Tenants, because there was all these different tenant councils, but no one was talking to each other and we weren't working together. So I formed this citywide group, which was kind of interesting. It was me and predominantly African-American women throughout the city that were the heads of tenant councils in Buffalo. And I learned the power of doing things, beyond yourself. It takes a group of people to accomplish things. And I got involved with other organizations, other community groups. I worked at the Buffalo Common Council as chief of staff of the Buffalo Common Council for 4 years. And there I learned a lot about the open meetings law and FOIL. And when I left that, I started doing some of my own work in that regard, and decided to form a group. And I wasn't sure, what was going to happen. So we started with Buffalo Niagara Coalition for Open Government and did that for a couple of years. And some of you here were involved back in those days. So it's great that you're still here. And then we decided to go statewide. He said, you know what? And we did. And literally a month or two later, the pandemic hit and the world shut down. Which maybe kind of worked out good, because I was kind of wondering, well, how am I going to do this statewide? How am I going to do meetings? Well, we all learned how to do Zoom very quickly. I had never done Zoom before. So it kind of worked out good that we've been able to utilize Zoom to have these meetings statewide. So that's how we got our start. And let me share my screen here to just go over some accomplishments from the past year. And can you all see my screen? Yes, no?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I can see it, Paul.
I don't know how to make it. Let's see. I want to do so it takes up the whole screen. There. All right. So here we go. So we are a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization. We are a 501c3. We take the position that Democrats, Republicans are equally bad when it comes to open government. So our efforts are nonpartisan. You know, I love people sometimes will complain that we criticize Democrats only. Then I get a complaint that we criticize Republicans only. So I know we're doing it right if I hear that from both sides. And you can learn more about us at our website at nyopengov.org. We have a 14-member board of directors. We meet monthly via Zoom at the second Thursday of each month at 6:30. Pretty much, this is a rarity for us. Pretty much every meeting we do is on a Thursday at 6:30 p.m. So if it's not a board meeting, it's a committee meeting. We have an open meetings law committee. We have a freedom of information law committee. We have a public relations committee. And then we have our board meeting. So every Thursday at 6:30, we know that there is some meeting going on. If you're interested in getting involved, we have lots of opportunities to do so. And last year, we ended the year with 93 paid members from 31 counties. So, you know, we started out with just two counties, Erie and Niagara. We ended last year in these with 684 Facebook followers. We're certainly a little more than that now. We're kind of new to Twitter. We didn't really start Twitter to the end of 2022. So at the end of 23, we had 421 Twitter followers. And at the end, we had about $4,000 in the bank. And halfway through this year, I can tell you all those numbers are higher than they were at the end of 2023. But that just gives you an idea of some of our numbers here. And we did 4 reports last year. One report we did was secret meetings make the open meetings law a sham, which is about the worst exemption in the open meetings law is this political caucus exemption, that all the Democrats can have a private meeting, all the Republicans can have a private meeting, and they can bring in department heads, they can run through the meeting agenda. It's really an outrageous exemption to the open meetings law. The party in control can literally pre-decide everything before their public meeting. So we wanted to draw attention to that. We also did a report that New York has an open government crisis. We need reform now. And what that report did was kind of compile all the statistics we've accumulated over the past few years and just showed every single report we do, the results are dismal as far as compliance with the law, whether it's posting meeting documents online, meeting minutes, executive sessions. Just the results are always poor. Response time for FOIL requests. We also did a report regarding live streaming of meetings, which was a very extensive report where we looked at 933 towns and whether they were live streaming their meetings or not. Really, no one has done such an extensive report. We support live streaming of meetings. The technology is not as hard as many municipalities make it out to be. And we did a report on how many places were allowing public comments at the town level as well. Actually, the live streaming report was more than towns, I believe. But the also did a report regarding public comments. It's kind of shocking to me and a lot of people that New York does not mandate that you have the right to speak at your local government meeting. Many other states do, and that's something that we're pushing to change as well. And then we did a bunch of training sessions, and again, until I did this, I didn't realize I had forgotten about some of these, but we did a training session regarding executive sessions. We did one on how to file an Article 78 lawsuit. We spoke to the New York Press Association. We did a training session for folks just in the capital region, the Albany area. We spoke to the Tonawanda Republican Committee and the Amherst Women's Republican Club. And again, we're bipartisan, so we're happy to speak to Democratic clubs as well. Those folks just happened to reach out to us and invite us. We did a forum last March during Sunshine Week, and I spoke to a journalism class at an Albany school as well via Zoom. So we did a few training sessions and we're still doing more. We also did some testimony or speaking to some organizations. The New York Committee on Open Government reached out to us and asked us to speak to obtain our thoughts and ideas regarding their annual report. And we were pleased to see that they incorporated many of the ideas we brought to them. We were invited by the Manhattan Borough Community Board to speak at a public hearing they did regarding live streaming of meetings. And we were also invited to speak to a New York Assembly budget hearing as far as providing additional resources and funding for open government efforts. So again, our name is getting out there across the state with these folks all contacted us. As well as many of those folks on the prior slide. Resources for the public. We created an open government booklet, which is on our website, where we give kind of a brief overview of the open meetings law and FOIL law in an easy to understand kind of way to assist folks. And we get a lot of email requests from reporters and the public with questions, and I try to keep track of those, and I'm sure I missed some, but last year I documented responding to 125 different emails, just, you know, how do I appeal my FOIL request? How many days do they have? You know, what's the law as far as posting meeting documents? You name it, it runs the gamut. And every time I answer those questions, I learn something as well. And I typically copy quite a few folks on those responses so that we can all learn from these questions. And we also went international. In 2023, the Buffalo International Institute invited us to meet with folks from the Kyrgyzstan, I always got to make sure I say it right, Republic. And we've done this a couple times since 2023. But that's always really interesting to go meet with folks from other countries. And in some instances, we found out that their laws were better than New York's laws, which was pretty crazy. So I always look forward to those. And I know Alberta and Maria have gone to some of those with me as well. And last year, we laid the groundwork for what we're doing this year. We drafted some legislation. We drafted legislation regarding a constitutional amendment. New York does not have it in their New York Constitution, the right to open government, which other states do. We drafted a bill to create an enforcement system to address violations of the open meetings law and FOIL law, because right now your only recourse is to hire an attorney, and there should be some other way to do this. And we drafted a bill regarding mandatory attorney fees, which actually passed the Senate last year. We've had other bills that we've drafted, but those were the three that we did in 2023. And this year we went to Albany and we lobbied on those bills, and we are making progress. What else? We've also done some legal work. We worked with the University of Buffalo Law School Clinic in filing a appellate brief regarding a FOIL issue. There was an agency seeking to get training materials from the parole board, and they were arguing that those are exempt. We did not agree with that. We filed a friend of the court brief, which the UB Law School did with us. And we also filed our first Article 78 lawsuit against the city of Buffalo regarding violations of the open meetings law. Unfortunately, we did not win that lawsuit, which was decided this year, but the lawsuit itself was filed last year, and I think we're going to do some more of those. Some organizational changes. We approved a litigation policy to help guide us as far as what lawsuits to take on. We have chairs of our committees, but we also added co-chairs, which has really been great to get other people experience. And we've had instances where we needed people to fill in and step in, and that's made for that to happen smoothly. Prior to 2023, our committees were kind of meeting at different dates and times, but that's when we moved to doing everything on Thursdays. And we also started a coalition social. For a while, we were doing this once a month just to get to know each other a little better, something not just a committee meeting. We're still doing those, but kind of quarterly now, and it's been a great way to bring in new members. We increased our membership fee. It was $20 for many years. We've increased it to $30. And we created a members only Facebook group. So if you become a member of our organization, we do have a private Facebook group. We have a public Facebook page as well, but it's nice to be able to kick around ideas and discuss things in our own Facebook group. So that's what I wanted to go over. Basically, we're here to help. Check out our website if you haven't. I'm always happy to answer email questions or to answer phone calls. So let me stop sharing my screen. And I wanted to, next on our agenda is to recognize a few folks. And I'm not sure if Corey is here. I emailed him previously and invited him, and he said he would try to attend, but I don't think he's here. But in any event, let me just tell you a little bit about Corey. Corey Morris is an attorney based out of Long Island and Florida. And he, for years, has taken on freedom of information lawsuits. And there's not a lot of attorneys that are willing to do that, because a lot of times you're not getting paid what you should get paid. You try to get some money up front, and you hope that if you win, the court will award you attorney fees, which doesn't happen as often as it should either. So I know Corey he's a warrior. I've watched some of his videos, that you can watch videos of him arguing appellate cases online, and he was a great arguer. The judges were giving it to him, and he was giving it right back to them. Very knowledgeable about this area of law. So we appreciate the work he's done in that regard. I mean, he's had to do things. He took a case in Erie County. Again, he's in Long Island, and most judges will let you appear remotely. This one particular judge, I think, was being a bit of a jerk and insisted that Corey come up from Long Island to appear in court for the judge to read his decision. I mean, issue the decision, send it by email. It happens all the time. He made Corey fly up from Long Island and then read the decision aloud in court, which was dismissing his case. I thought, wow, to do that to an attorney. And I told Corey, geez, you should have called me. I could have, went and appeared for you. But I thought that was pretty crappy, actually, of a judge to do that. So we appreciate Corey. The next person we want to honor is Mike Franklin. Mike is one of our members. And we did our Article 78 training last year, and Mike said, I'm going to give this a shot. He did a lot of research, and he did. He filed his own Article 78 lawsuit against the city of Syracuse, and he won. I lost my Article 78 lawsuit as an attorney, but Mike, not being an attorney, managed to file his own lawsuit and win. So Mike is here, and like to have Mike say a few words.
Yeah, sure. First of all, I never would have won without Anthony Fasano finding a piece of case law. I never would have found it myself. And basically, I used that piece of case law and cut and pasted it and customized it to my argument, and it was fantastic. Now, the whole thing was joyous for a few reasons. Number one, the city of Syracuse has 33 people in their legal department and a $6 million budget, and I beat their ass. So that's joyous to me. But also, previous to suing them, basically they were egging me on, begging me to sue them. So I said, okay. And but first I went and got an opinion from the Committee on Open Government. And I had a very nice conversation with Kristen O'Neill, I believe it was, the younger Kristen.
I think Kristen Smith.
Kristen Smith, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that she's great, and she's very straightforward. And she and I had a long conversation, and she knew exactly what I was talking about. But then when it went to the other folks who do these things, all of a sudden the whole thing got turned upside down, and they wrote a decision that was the opposite of what she and I talked about. And what they did is they used a piece of case law that also the city of Syracuse was using from 1998 for a General Motors manufacturing plant against Messina, whereas my case is residential assessment data. It just wasn't even relevant. But the Committee on Open Government considered that to be the relevant case law, and so did the city of Syracuse. Until Anthony found me this case, Eckel versus Nassau County, which was recent and blew that other case out of the water. Done deal. I mean, that's really what it was. And that just the disingenuous behavior of the assessor and basically the attorney, it was just mind-boggling, their behavior and their delay. And they are trying to filibuster the judge with all volumes of nonsense to confuse the judge. But I got to tell you, this judge was fantastic. It kind of revived my trust in their judiciary, because the guy's a CPA. I voted for him because he was a CPA. I figured a CPA can handle civil matters, and he sure did. He knew exactly what was going on, and he put in some stuff that I wasn't even familiar with, and I was just blown away by what it is that he did. But it's all the Public Officers Law 89. And one thing I was going to suggest, Paul, when you I watched your training video on open meetings law and FOIL. I would suggest as you're talking that you reference the sections of the law so that people can reference what you're talking about. And so that's what this is that there's certain sections of the law. There's one here that let me see it. It was they basically there's a section of the Public Officers Law that was put in there specifically from keeping them from taking a sue us attitude. But anyway, it's all sections of it's 87 2G is what my case was all about. And I just focused on that, use that other case. And I want to encourage everybody to look at New York State e-file. You just Google NYS e-file. It's the unified court system stuff. You can search the cases and you can see everybody else's cases. You can search out lawyers to see if they win. There's all kinds. It's fantastic. You should check it. And when I did this lawsuit, it was like $400 in filing fees. I had to pay a guy to do the service. So maybe I had $600 into it in a year's worth of time. But I never went to court. You just do the whole thing through the webpage, and you just type stuff up in Word, save it as a PDF, you upload it, and you have to run to the bank to get it, notarized and all that stuff. But you can do the whole thing through New York State e-file. So I encourage you to browse that website. When you go into it, on the left it says search as guest, and you can search out all the cases. So, but anyway, it was a great joy beating the city of Syracuse, and the ramifications have been very significant. So now when I send out my FOIL requests, I put in C. Michael Franklin versus City of Syracuse and Eckel versus Nassau County, and I tell you the impact. Tompkins County, there's only one assessor in Tompkins County, and for the past 3 years he's evaded me. Well, I appealed him, and I cited Michael Franklin and all this kind of stuff. I'm getting everything now. I'm getting everything from the city of Syracuse, And I even had a small town in the Catskills mess with me. They told me that they wouldn't give me the data unless I got permission from the property owner. I said, I can get the data from every property you have in this township. And so I sent the FOIL appeal in there. Now I'm getting everything. And so what I encourage everybody to do is create some boilerplate on your FOIL email that has some legalese to let them know you mean business. And if you have to appeal, don't forget to carbon copy the Committee on Open Government, because just the other day, this town up in Adirondacks was playing games with me. They wanted to charge me for copies. I go, I don't want the copies. You print to a PDF and you email it to me. You can't charge me for copies. So I wrote up the appeal, carbon copied Coog, and Kristen responded immediately and told them, if you can print to a PDF, you must provide it. And so don't forget to CC Coog on your appeal.
All right, thanks, Mike.
Yep.
I had the opposite experience as you. I had a federal lawsuit one time that I had dismissed against me, and then I had a second federal lawsuit that they dismissed, and they cited my earlier case against me. I said, "Isn't that great?" So you're doing better than I am. Next person I want to recognize is David Sifford. David is the legal director for an organization called Surveillance Technology Oversight Project, which we call STOP for short. I can't recall when I first met David, but I know it was by email or I think maybe a phone conversation. And the first time I spoke to him, we were talking about the problems with the FOIL law. And he said, I'm gonna rewrite the law and amend it. And I said, okay, I've never had anybody say that they were going to rewrite the whole law. He says, and I'll get back to you. I said, okay. And he did. He did a lot of drafting and writing and got back to me and got other groups involved. And I said, wow, this guy's serious, because a lot of people will say that, but they rarely follow through. And then last year, there was also a judge that was being appointed to the Court of Appeals, and there was a lot of opposition to that judge being appointed. And there was a whole organized effort to stop his appointment. And I read a very interesting article that went into detail about how that happened. And David's name was mentioned in there. I said, geez, I know that guy. And they said one of the key players in bringing people together was David, and he was involved in a lot of these efforts and discussions. So when we were talking about doing our first lobbying day, we said, we need to talk to David. He's done this stuff before. So we reached out to David, and he was very helpful in giving us some advice. And David also got a lot of other groups together to let's see if we can work together to agree upon some bills. And really, due to David's efforts, he runs a great meeting. He listens to people, the meetings, and great follow-up. So out of that came 4 bills that our group, Reinvent Albany, NYPIR, all kinds of groups have gotten behind these 4 bills that we went to Albany to lobby for. And it really all began with David. I mean, David's the one that was the center of it, kicked it off, got it going, kept it going. And David also gave us some interns to help us with one of our reports, which we'll talk about in a bit. So with all that said, and David just got back from paternity leave, so I think this is like his first day back, so I'm glad to even have him here. So let me turn it over to David.
That was extremely generous, Paul. Thank you. If you hear the baby crying in the background, I apologize. Eden is 4 weeks old today.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. They're very small and cute and loud. It's been really amazing working with this group. I mean, what a wonderful, dedicated group of people working on something so important. When I started at STOP, I guess that must have been in March of 2022. It was pretty clear pretty early how much of what we did relied on FOIL. And within like a couple months, became pretty clear that all of our FOIL work was just a unbelievable uphill battle in a way that shouldn't have to be. And as someone who's always been more legislatively minded, I was like, okay, who actually has done work in foil so that we can like figure out how to fix it, because I don't have I didn't have really any foil experience coming in stop. And so Paul was one of the first people I connected with. I don't remember who introduced us. And it was just such a breath of fresh air to hear someone who's like not only gone through the things that I was going through for the first time, but had thought pretty deeply about what was going wrong and why and how to fix it. And I took lots and lots of notes. Yeah, I wound up writing this really giant Christmas tree style bill with like a whole million different things that could be done, and used it sort of as a discussion point. It became pretty clear that there's no appetite for something like that, but there was a lot of sort of different groups in different places that were really interested in this foil stuff. There are, you know, groups like yours that are specifically dedicated to it, and there are not that many of them. And there's sort of related sort of watchdog groups, the Reinvent Albany's and the NIPERGs, and the civil rights orgs like STOP that use foil in our work, and the press organizations. And so sort of like put out a blast to a whole bunch of people that I thought might be interested, and people started inviting other people, and we wound up with this really amazing coalition that I really think has ability to do a lot of good, not just this legislative session, but going forward. And so we're already seeing bills moving through committees, and I think that's a testament to you all more than anything else. People who are really dedicated to this issue, know what they're talking about, have the expertise in this issue, and legislators listen when that's the case. And so we're still, you know, sorting out complaints from this person or that person, some of which are more reasonable and some of which are less reasonable. And so we'll see what we can wind up doing. But in a pretty quick turnaround time, I feel like we've made a pretty big impact. And I feel like a lot of the advocacy we do at STOP is very New York City focused, and it can make it hard to move legislation when you have like a bunch of, annoying activists from New York City going up to Albany and saying like, you need to do this, you need to do that. But when you have a coalition forming like all across the state, it really changes the tone. And a lot of people listen who, don't give time of day otherwise. And so having a coalition like this one that works statewide is just incredible. And so it's really been an amazing experience working with you all.
All right, thank you, David. Let me move on then to, we have some other folks that we want to recognize, and I'm going to turn it over to Michelle to do that.
Hello, hopefully my technology cooperates properly. So we are, don't run away, Dave, because I didn't know you were going to be here. I got a quote, but I might circle you back in here in just a second. But we are seeking to recognize several young community leaders for all of their efforts to make our government more transparent all over the state, which we're New York State. We should lead the nation. We have to lead the nation. We're New York. Come on, guys. Come on. We're New York. Let's do this. Anyway, so we're not recognizing them in any particular order. They're not alphabetical. I was trying to do it order of appearance, but even within order of appearance throughout the year, there's no particular order. If I mispronounce someone's name, I apologize in advance. So we have several young people we're not able, or that we're recognizing who were not able to attend. It's graduation season. These are our young leaders, so they have other obligations, and the ones who are here, we appreciate them. So we have Aiden DeGroff, who is a Central New York high school senior. This particular young community leader created his own YouTube page for his home municipality. This particular YouTube page was created, I believe, July or August of 2023. It has over 5,000 views in less than a year with that particular page. He created this page so that the general public can record their meetings and upload it. Again, this is a shining example of a young leader seeing a need and filling that need and finding a simple, effective, and very cost-effective solution. Again, from the mouths of babes, right? How simple can it be? We're going to talk about our young leaders from the State Policy Advocacy Clinic. So I'm going to read a really brief statement from Alexandra Dufresne. She is the State Policy Advocacy Clinic from the Jeb E. Brooks School of Public Policy at Cornell University. And she says both the State Policy Advocacy Clinic and the Jeb E. Brooks School of Public Policy at Cornell University are new, founded in 2021 and 2023, respectively. We are delighted that the New York Coalition for Open Government was one of our very first community partners. It is also fitting that transparency and civic engagement in governmental decision-making are essential to all of our clinic's policy priorities. This includes welcoming immigrants to upstate New York, advancing the rights of people living with disabilities, fighting the opioid crisis, improving housing for farm workers, investing in housing, education, and workforce development, and to prioritize childcare in rural areas. We thank the New York Coalition for Open Government for partnering so seriously with our students and for inspiring us all. We look forward to future collaborations. And that warms my heart, because again, without our community partners, again, like Paul, to piggyback on what Paul said, without our community involvement, like it takes so many of our partners to do this. So I'm going to turn it over to Robin to honor one of our first honorees from, I'll turn it over to Robin.
Can't hear you.
Robin?
Okay. Hi, Hunter. I'm glad to see that you're here. Hunter Maskin is a soon-to-be graduate of Cornell University with a Bachelor's of Science in Policy Analysis and Management. Hunter has been an active member of the Cornell community during his undergraduate experience. In this last year, Hunter was selected as an undergraduate scholar for the Cornell Institute of Politics and Global Affairs. He has also interned for organizations across industries and sectors. So Hunter, I have a couple of questions I'd like to ask you. Why is open government so important to you?
Sure. Thank you so much for inviting us to attend today. Me and Andreas are very honored, and I'm sorry that our other teammate couldn't attend. Her name is Manna Hill, but she was also definitely very instrumental in the work that we've done for NICOG. And so for me, the prospect of open government is important because I think transparency should be the #1 priority in discussions about policy decisions. I think far too often policy decisions are made by people who are disconnected from the constituents they serve, people who may be disconnected from the issues that they're discussing. And so I think I appreciate organizations like NICOG because they're working to make these discussions more accessible to everyone. And so yeah.
Okay. And what have you learned and gained from participating with us on our project? Because I know you did work on one of our projects.
Yeah, I think just generally, I think that by working with the organization, I gained a sense, I guess a greater sense of responsibility to support efforts to repair this disconnect that we're seeing between governments, particularly local governments, and constituents. I at least for the town where I'm from, you rarely hear about what's happening at the local level unless you really try hard to pay attention. And so I think that if there was an organization like this that was seeking to get ordinary people more involved or just make them more aware of opportunities to participate and or listen to local government, I would definitely have tried to take advantage of that.
Thank you for all of your very, very hard work. So just keep it up. Thanks.
Thank you.
And to let you know who Robin is, she's one of our board of directors and she is the open meeting law chair. So to move on to the next person, as Hunter just talked about, Monahill, is it Joffrey? If I say, again, I apologize if I mispronounce your name. She is a recent graduate, from the Brooks School of Public Policy at Cornell University. Hold on, I lost. She published a amazing article in the Times Union about disability and the need for public meetings. She helped participate with our live streaming report and she did a wonderful op-ed. She is an wonderful advocate for civil liberties. So again, we will be posting bios, individual bios, full bios. We're trying to summarize for time. Sorry, Paul, we might go a little over. But I think Robin just posted the link in there. So check out her article. It was great. She's out of town or out of the country. I'm going to go to Anne Marie and she is going to speak about our next honoree, Andreas.
Hi, Andreas, I'm glad you could make it tonight. It was great working with you and Hunter and Manfrey last year on the live stream project. So Andreas, and I hope I don't crucify your last name, is it Saus? I'm sure yeah, it is. Okay. Is a recent graduate from the Brooks School of Public Policy at Cornell University. And while at Cornell, Andreas contributed to research projects related to U.S. political polarization and the spread of online misinformation. He has a deep personal and academic interest in how we can improve civic participation and trust in government. He plans to attend Harvard Law School this fall. So my first question to you, Andreas, is we would like to know, why is transparency in government important to you?
Yeah, thank you so much, Anne Marie. And I would just like to emphasize like how grateful I am of both you and Paul working on this project with you, especially you for doing so much work with putting together a spreadsheet for us. It was truly a Herculean task. And as far as my interest in or why I think transparency in government is important, there are a few reasons. I think as Michelle mentioned, with the purpose of the clinic and why we chose this particular project, we're essentially focused on issues sort of avoiding New York City, just upstate at large, that focus on populations that for some reason or another can't speak for themselves, whether it's children, whether it's undocumented immigrants, whether it's people with disabilities who can't make time, that can't be present at these meetings. And through working on this project, it really made it clear to me that working on transparency in government is pretty integral and foundational to make sure that these sorts of populations can be heard. At our foundational level, it's important that people trust in, their democratic institutions, and that these institutions are responsive to the people's needs. So that's something that I really learned throughout the semester I worked with the coalition.
Thank you. And my second question is, could you please let us know what you have learned or gained from participating with us on the live streaming project?
Well, I think I learned a lot about, so we had an understanding of, the sorts of, we didn't quite understand the landscape of open meetings or live stream meetings before we started this project. And it was a very educational experience for me just to see, considering how many groups, how many like towns and villages were live streaming their meetings during COVID, how that sort of dropped off completely after it sort of became less of a priority. And it really showed me, how a lot of this is possible, right? We saw a lot of towns and villages that had were extremely small, just had a few hundred in population, but still were able to live stream their meetings, while even larger towns and cities failed to do so. And if anything, that really taught me that, this thing that we were asking for groups to live stream their meetings is a possibility. And it's something that's, a matter of will rather than, a question about resources, considering that how easily people have come to adapt to, the new Zoom landscape.
Thank you, Andreas, and good luck with law school. We hope to see you back to the Coalition for Pro Bono cases, okay? You're muted.
So here's where, if David's still here, I might ask him for a statement from Surveillance Technology Oversight Project as to why they loaned us or had their interns help us with our FOIL project, and why he kind of already spoke as to why this is important, but again, we're getting ready to recognize the interns that you have loaned for us and that you have been integral with. So
Well, I'll let the interns do most of the talking, and I guess Andy's on and just did incredible work on this. I'll just say that this is a really important project. I'm so grateful to you and Anne Marie and everyone else who worked on it. As some of you know, we have this FOIL reporting bill. It's one of the 4 bills. And the reason we have it is there's just so little information about what actually happens with respect to FOIL, and the lack of information is part of the way that agencies get away with violating the law. And so your work in sort of shedding light into what's actually happening on the ground is just super important. So we're very grateful for that.
and to also say that we've learned from our community partners, because we now have a FOIL package where we have 2 of those 4 bills, but we you know, you helped cobble that FOIL package together. But anyway, so I'm going to speak first about JD, is it Morales? They are a 3rd-year law student at NYU. They will be at the Bronx Defenders Civil Action Project. They graduated from UC Berkeley in 2020. They currently serve as the community liaison for Unemployment Action Center and is the colloquium editor for NYU Review of Law and Social Change. They are passionate about economic and tech justice. And then we are going to go to Sonia, who is going to speak for our next honoree. You're muted. Now your camera's off. Hold on a second.
Right.
Technical difficulties. There you go. There you go. We got you.
Would you please read the bio for Andy and my
Sure.
question to him?
Sure. So Andy is he has recently completed his 2nd year at CUNY School of Law. At CUNY, Andy is participating in the Defenders Clinic, where he is assisting with a clemency application for an unjustly incarcerated individual. Andy has also interned with the New York County Defender Service and the ARC Immigration Clinic. So Andy, again, you were on loan to us from STOP. Why do you feel transparency in government is beneficial?
Yeah, I think I kind of had 2 issues that came up with my work on the FOIL project with STOP. First, that any of us can have our own preferences around what policies we're interested in government enacting, and it becomes hard or impossible to have any sort of impact around changing policy if you don't know what the government is doing or how the government is operating. And that kind of level of secrecy interferes both practically and I think in terms of people's investment in making change when that secrecy is happening. And so the ability to open up with the sunshine and increased transparency becomes just a preliminary essential step in order to then begin advocating for anyone's preferred policies. And secondly, I think there has been perhaps a past experience where any individual or organization might have been filing these FOIL requests, and their experience was really all they had information about. They didn't know what was going on with other people, how responsive these agencies were, whether there were any sort of larger trends at work. And the FOIL project is a way to begin aggregating that information and specifically to begin identifying if there are these larger concerns of a pattern of non-responsiveness or of agencies that are not living up to this mandate. And it's only by collecting and analyzing that information in total that that sort of pattern can be found and then addressed in various ways.
Congratulations, Andy. You're doing a very important work here in Erie County. We have a real problem. And are you familiar with what's been happening in Erie County Holding Center?
I'm not.
I'd like to share some stuff with you, and I'd be interested in learning more about your work. Would that be possible?
Yeah, I'll DM you my contact information.
That would be wonderful. Keep up the good work and kudos to you. You and David's have a very important, the fine tuning, getting to the bottom of the problem that we have with FOIL. Important topic too. People being in jail and they should not be.
Absolutely, Sonia. We know how you feel about this. So the next question, Andy, is what insight have you gained from working on our FOIL law project?
Yeah, I think like I certainly, before getting involved with this project and before law school had this idea of transparency and open government as an important ideal. And I hadn't really thought through the kind of practical aspects of how to go about that. And so realizing that it takes a dedicated commitment from organizations and individuals to actually put those values into practice and writing up these FOIL requests, appealing denials, the kind of Article 78 process was something that I was able to learn about through my internship with STOP, as well as the project, the FOIL project with NICOG, to really gain a better understanding of the work that needs to happen to go into achieving these sorts of goals around good governance that don't come about purely from kind of good intentions or best wishes, but need kind of boots on the ground, going through these filings and keeping the pressure on these various agencies to make sure they follow through with what they're required to do by law.
Great, Andy. And again, we look forward to you doing some pro bono and other, helping us assist us with. We look forward to future collaboration. So our next honoree is Marwa Saeed. She is an intern who is currently working again with a surveillance technology oversight project. Marwa is diligently gathering and recording facts and interviewing experts and documenting research for an upcoming Freedom of Information Law project that they're working on. We want to recognize her efforts to document the full legal record, as well as thoughtful follow-up questions, and just thoroughly documenting as a legal intern should do. Just get all the facts. So we applaud her efforts and we look forward to seeing the final product and the future result from that. So that's really, I think, all I have for our Young Leader awards. But again, I just want to reiterate that it takes a community. It takes not only our local communities, which is super important, but our state community and our national community. So we thank you for everyone. Back to Paul.
Okay, thank you very much. It was great hearing from everyone and getting their thoughts and perspectives. I don't really have much else to say beyond that. It's, again, I think it's always helpful to reflect and take a look back on the past year. We're always so busy moving forward. And what's unique about our organization is we're all volunteers. We do not have a single paid staff member. And I think that really made an impression when we were in Albany. I didn't pick up on letting legislators know that until I mentioned it in one meeting, and I was surprised how impressed they were that we went there as volunteers. I mean, every single person they talk to is typically a paid lobbyist or a staff member. I mean, nothing against staff members. We'd all like to get paid to do this, and we're trying to figure that out. But I think quite a few legislators and staff were surprised that we're all volunteers and paid our own way to go to Albany. And for our first experience doing that in Albany, we learned a lot. And David was very helpful in giving us advice to put it together. I was in a few sessions with David and got to watch him do it. And he's very good at schmoozing these legislators, I tell you. And they all seem to know who he was. I was like, wow, you know, everybody knows David. So look forward to doing it again next year in Albany. So prep, I guess over the summer, you know, we'll see what happens. There's only like literally days left in this year's legislative session. You know, the stuff typically happens the last few days. So hopefully one or more of our bills will make it through. But if not, we made tremendous progress just by getting some important sponsors, to getting John McDonald, the chair of the Assembly Local Government Committee, to sponsor some of our bills is huge. Senator Hoylman is a big player in the Senate, and he's on board. So we're talking to the right people. And over the summer, I think we'll have some more discussions maybe about some other ideas as well. David and I have a hobby of drafting legislation. When we've learned that from our time together. We both have stuff in the idea bank to come out yet. So I thank everyone for joining us, and we'll see you at a meeting somewhere, I'm sure. So thanks, and take care.
Congratulations.
Thanks,
Yes.
everyone.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you
See
to
ya.
everyone. Bye
Keep
now.
up the good work.
Yes.
Bravo. Thank you.